Good evening, guys, and welcome back to the Creative Cranium. I got some great guests tonight, and I cannot wait to talk to them. Actually, we did meet once before, so I should say welcome back first.
Yeah, hey, it's good to be back. Thanks for having us, man.
Great to be back.
Yeah, I'm real excited to talk to you guys. Viewers, please welcome Dalton Shannon and Wells Thompson.
Hi.
Congratulations on your last Kickstarter. I guess I will start there.
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
It's a big success. We're very happy.
It's a nail biter, but we pulled through. Yeah.
I remember we're talking about that, and now you had kind of a big surge at the end, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
The big rally, some people came together and helped us make it happen. We wound up overshooting by it wound up being like 111% funded. So
nice.
Yeah,
awesome.
Worked out pretty well.
And I'm going to look forward to asking you guys some questions. I love to find out about the creative processes that modern creators use, in particular, things along the lines of crowdfunding. And that's why I'm so pleased to see you tonight. I'm going to start with Dalton. So you had this surge at the end of the last campaign. What do you attribute that to,
Dalton? Luck? I don't know. Crowdfunding's a fickle beast. Like it's hard to quantify it sometimes because and I can speak from my personal experience, like sometimes it feels like shouting into the void on my social medias because I don't have near the followers that I would need to even make a dent in any sort of kind of shouting. But and Wells has a more sizable following than I do, and I know he's told me sometimes it feels like he's shouting into a void as well. So like it sometimes it just comes down to word of mouth and belief in a project, and even some people who are like, yeah, that looks cool, I'll check it out when we're closer to when like it's got a bigger chance of success. Like I comics aren't a meritocracy. So it's not like, just the sheer quality of the book should get it funded, even though, I think it should, but
Right.
So yeah, I think it's a number of things. It's shouting into the void, even though it doesn't matter. It's people coming together for a book they believe in. It's the book being good. And it's the skin of our teeth, man. Like I don't know what else to ascribe it to, because it's crowdfunding is so weird. It's weird.
It is weird, isn't it?
Wells is the numbers guy. He might have a more delicate answer to that than I do.
Okay, sure. Let's move over to Wells. So
Sure.
I enjoyed watching the campaign, and by the way, I'm enjoying the new one too. We're going to come to that in just a second, but we'll just wrap up our questions about the previous one. So when he mentions, Dalton said you had the larger following. Are you referring to Twitter? Which following is
Twitter?
The most?
Yeah.
Mostly Twitter, yeah, and I gather the like emails for the newsletter, and yeah, I just tend to be more of the face of the outward face of the duo.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, the last campaign came down to us putting in a lot of work and doing a lot of doing what we're doing now, a lot of podcasts, a lot of things to get the book out there. In concurrence with a couple or quite a few really dedicated fans who want to see this book happen. So it was a bunch of people coming together to make the book happen, and then one or two people who believed in it enough to really put their money where their mouth was.
Yeah, we had a page get adopted, which was not a first, but it was the same guy. Campaign to campaign, which is great.
And refresh my memory. And of course, Wells, if I get this wrong, correct me right away. So the last campaign was wrapping up the prior series?
Not wrapping up the first arc of Mechaton, yes.
Okay, gotcha. And then do I have it correctly? That's going to be a collected then?
Yeah, that'll turn into a trade, issues 1 through 5 of that one.
Gotcha. And the new one is a new IP?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
What we're doing right now is brand new.
Exciting. Perfect. Before we move over to that, I just want to ask a quick question. You mentioned Twitter. Why did you, and remember, when I ask questions, please think of this in the way that I always want to learn myself. I come by it honestly. Why did you choose Twitter over, say TikTok, or why is Twitter your main thrust?
Well, when I started doing Twitter, it wasn't in its death throes. So keep that in mind. It has gotten, at least it feels like it was a lot more active when we started about 2 years, 2-3 years ago.
Right.
Starting on Kickstarter campaigns, there was a lot more engagement. There was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot more of an audience that felt like you could reach. And now it does feel like it's getting worse. So we are moving into I have started a TikTok in the last couple of weeks that has been getting some traction.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll follow you. I'm a TikTok person now.
Great. Yeah, it's just my name, Wells Thompson. I started posting on Facebook again just to try and put feelers out there, see if anyone's responsive there. So we're always evolving. We're always trying to find new places where we can where we can get our comic out there. But Twitter appealed to me because it was, nice. Welcome to another brain drain.
Yeah, sure.
It appealed to me because it seemed the most writer friendly. Instagram is great for artists. It's very visual.
Yeah, I can't get any traction on Instagram.
Yeah, I can't.
We can't either.
Yeah, I've never had any luck on Instagram. There's a lot of places that seem like they would be good for reaching people, but it's very difficult if you don't have constant art to be putting out there. And as a writer, you're very often in that position. It can be really hard to get any traction. So Twitter seems like the best place for us at the time. Hopefully something similar to Twitter comes along and gets just as popular, but we'll see. We'll adapt no matter what happens.
Yeah. And I mean, I like Twitter. Okay. But I think maybe I'm not edgy enough. Like I don't, I'm just a guy who makes comics. It's not really too, I got to dive in myself into, and I say this with a little bit of sarcasm, but not too much. It helps if you're controversial or edgy in some way. And I'm like,
it helps to get engagement. But no, I can't. Social media has always rubbed me wrong.
It's a minefield.
I can't. It's hard for me to even engage with it when I am like, I don't feel like sharing a thought, much less like an advertisement. So like it's
right.
Social media has always been hard for me since I turned like 20, and it's never recovered. And so I mean, I'm fully convinced that the comics career is affected by me not wanting to engage with social media, but it's a fickle beast, just like crowdfunding, and it's difficult to navigate, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't at least try. But right. It's weird and it's difficult.
Well, and the whole thing's full of twists and turns, right? Like I never in my life pictured a thing. I'm sometimes doing 3 shows a week now with these comic creators, and I never had any idea of. Look, I'm a writer. I'm not even podcasting guy. But it turns out that there's enough people that are interested enough in Dalton Shannon and Wells Thompson. This is going to be on something like 13 channels now tonight.
All right.
It keeps getting bigger and bigger, which thanks to Pops for that. That part has nothing to do with me. But so let's tell you what, let's move over to talk about your new project.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make sure. All right. So viewers, we're going to take a look tonight at Depths. This is a graphic novel about grief and underwater survival. And guys, let me tell you, I thought your last book looked good. I thought this one looked great. From the minute I saw it, I was hooked, right? And we're going to chat a little bit tonight about perfecting your elevator pitch. And I just want to say, I love the elevator pitch on this.
Oh, thank you.
Do one of you guys want to say it? Dalton, do you want to say it?
Oh, do I? A 1930s engineer builds a perpetual diving suit and gets trapped underwater for 3 years. His friend searches for him against all odds. It's The Martian meets 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. It's a guy in a diving suit who's trying to find his way home and deal with all the depression and grief and anxiety that comes with that.
Yeah, I love the premise, and I think the tagline's good. We're going to take also a look at some art as we go through.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But first, Dalton, tell me a little bit about how you guys are co-writers, correct?
Yes.
So how do you come up with the concept for this project?
Well, this one specifically was because of depression. It was I was just out of college. I was 20 something with not a great sense of direction or purpose, and I was alone for the first time in my life in a tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and I was just cut off from friends and family for a while and just depressed as hell. And so I didn't know what other outlet to do rather than like create something. So I drank a lot. I watched Star Trek Enterprise and I made Depths. That was that year. And so this idea of just a deep sea diver just kind of really struck me. And the depths came out of it, but it very quickly died on the vine because I couldn't get the legs to make it do anything. And thankfully, Wells and I...
Can you expand that a little bit? Like, to you, when you say you couldn't, like, you're meaning you can't quite get it to the next level. Can you be a little more specific?
So my initial idea for like issue 1, chapter 1 is pretty much 90% unchanged from that first draft. Like it's a strong first chapter. But when I kept writing, my initial idea was that when we went into the water, when Emil, the main character, goes into the water, we go into the water and we don't come up until he does, right? But that meant that the pacing really dragged. We didn't have a lot of variance in characters, and it was boring, and it died very quickly because of that. And thankfully, I kept in touch with Wells after school, and we were kind of, pitching different ideas back and forth. And I brought up depths, and Wells was like, "I like that, gimme." And so Wells was able to see what I couldn't, in that we needed a B plot. Like this book needed a B plot, and we needed characters that could kind of, if not bounce off each other in a physical location, they could at least thematically. And so Wells was able to take that concept and really kind of like let it breathe and have the pacing actually kind of flow a little better. And once I caught onto that, everything started to kind of flow and it clicked. And Depths as we know it today exists now because of the partnership.
Also, it has an ending now, so that's important.
And it has an ending, yes.
Okay, yeah, and I want to hear more about that. Let's move over to Wells.
Sure thing.
The first thing is, you kind of knew there was something there at the beginning when you first saw this. Okay, and tell me why you thought that.
Well, as he alluded to, the story was kind of born out of our kind of lowest moments, struggling with depression, struggling with anxiety, grief, and so Dalton came to me with this, image of a deep sea diver that's stuck just trying to survive and can't make it back to the ocean. And I was like, I know that. I know him because I am to some extent I am him.
Right.
So immediately I was like, this thing has legs. You can do a lot with this. It's also just like, it's a really interesting setting. It's a super like, the time period, the 1930s, is super rich.
Great setting, great setting.
And the fact that you're underwater means that it's not inventing so much as it is research. Like there's so much cool stuff you can do just from being underwater, even like from little stuffs like what's it actually like to exist down there and move around and just try and move forward in an environment that is where everything is heavier than it is on the surface. To you don't have to invent aliens or wild creatures, or it's just the things down there are weird enough and horrific enough. It carries a story by itself.
Hey, and you mentioned, and if you don't want to mention this, or if it's a spoiler, don't say it. But so you mentioned about adding a subplot or a B plot. Do you want to reveal what some of that is, or if that spoils it, then don't?
No, not at all. It's just
the other half of the book.
Emil is stuck underwater trying to get out, and meanwhile his friend on the surface that helped him build the machine and knows him better than anyone else. He helped him build the machine, so he knows it works. So he understands that there's a really good chance Emil is still down there trying to get out. And even though no one wants to hear it and no one believes him, he's convinced, I need to find a way to get down there and save him. So it's his story of trying to do that and still live his life.
Yeah, and it adds a little tension.
Absolutely. So
I get it.
There's a lot of back and forth between the two characters, and we see sort of different sides of the same coin of those emotions of trying to survive.
Yeah. Perfect, man. It sounds terrific. Would you guys like to? Should I play the video?
Yeah, if you want to.
Go for it.
Absolutely.
I would like that.
You can stand my voice for more than 5 seconds.
I used to love the water. My brothers and I used to go swimming in a small pond behind our house when we were kids. It hadn't always been there. My father had made it when I was 3, something like that. Before he stopped recognizing our faces, Father would sometimes come out to swim with us in that pond of his. Especially in those early years when Mom wouldn't have us swimming by ourselves. Could stand out in the water, his chest hair matted and his arms held up high. He'd tell us to jump, and he promised to catch us. Not that he always did. There were more than a few times where he must have slipped, his laughter getting caught in his mustache. But for those few split seconds, all alone under the water, I thought I was going to die. Then the water would rush around our ears and our heads would break the surface, and there he was, all smirk, his hands floating near ours, calm but ready. My brothers always said he'd never let us drown. He'd always pull us back up. My name is Emil Parker. I've been falling for a long time.
And
My
then
name
it's
is
just
Wells
our
Thompson.
dumb faces after that.
We're the writers
Okay, maybe we'll
behind
take a pause
Mechaton,
on that one, and I'll
Yeah.
ask
Legacy
some
and
questions.
Conquer.
But a quick comment about the artwork, right? Great choice on the artwork. It's not quite
Oh, yes.
monochromatic exactly, and it's not.
Yeah.
How would you describe that?
Very grounded, very dark. It's super atmospheric.
Yeah.
I think is the
Atmospheric,
best way to describe it. Jay has this great way of drawing these really sweeping underwater vistas while also having a really grounded bit of character work. So like the character, and this book is super dialogue intensive too. So that back and forth between characters and keeping it interesting is super important. And Jay is able to do that with like super ease. Just it's
Great
astounding.
character acting, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
do you want to give a
and-
quick artist shout out here? So, how did you find the artist for the project?
Jay Sheik is he's a guy who's been on my radar for a while. Met him through Twitter, and we were going to do a short comic together, but that fell through on the publisher's end. But yeah, I really dug his style. I thought he would be good for it. And when we started looking for artists to do this particular book, this is a book that we've had in the back of our minds for like 8 years. So we had an idea of what we wanted it to look like. And Jay was the name that kept coming back up as like, hey, I think that he could probably do a really good job with this. So when we pitched it to him, immediately he was like, this sounds like it's really important to you. It sounds like this is your ride or die kind of comic. And I was like, it very much is. He goes, good. Cool. This is the kind of book I want to work on. So he was very game for it. He was gung-ho about it. And I think he does an incredible job, like you said. And then he introduced us to our colorist as well, Rajesh Kumar, who brings that very blue kind of, like you said, not
it's not really
monochromatic, but
it's like almost
there's a range. It's we knew it was going to be an aggressively blue book for both thematic purposes and like environmental, obviously. So it made a lot of sense to work with someone who was comfortable working within that kind of limited range, and he brings it. The way he draws water it just has this kind of murky, claustrophobic quality to it that I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, your guy nailed it. Great choice there by him. And tell you what, let's ask Dalton this question. So obviously you guys have some Kickstarter experience, some crowdfunding experience. In this case, it's kind of a new and untested title, right?
Right.
So how did you know? First off, how did you choose your goal?
Oh, that's a lot of maths and numbers that Wells crunches, and he's like, okay, here's what the printing costs, here's what the art cost. Like it's Wells giving us a spreadsheet, right? And he's like, here's what the goal needs to be. But you're right, it is untested. We've never had a campaign with this large a goal before. We've never offered trades or hardcovers.
I got to give it to you. You guys are gutsy in the way that you approach these. It's very much it's sort of like a conquest, right? This one here, Depths at 20,000, and the book looks every penny of it. It's a great looking book.
It's and we had to really choose our opening. Depths was not a book you could come to Kickstarter with for your very first project and expect to get it.
Yeah, and
It's
to just chime in here, Dalton, this isn't exactly, it's not a superhero book. It's
Nope.
not a nudie book or any
No.
of the. It's not any of the popular things that
No.
you see.
Like
But you got a really compelling concept, though.
yes,
Mhm.
it like the initial concept was, at least for me, like a 7-issue miniseries. But you can't sell a 7-issue introspective character drama set underwater without any sort of, like, I don't know, tits or superheroes in it. Like it's not going to
Right.
sell on Kickstarter.
And again,
also,
don't take that as me. I'm not disparaging
no,
tits
no,
or
no, no,
superheroes.
no. Like it's great. I love big-titted superheroes, but it's
We're Power Girl fans here. All right.
yeah, I love Power
Sweet.
Girl,
All right,
but
man.
but
We're
like
on the same page.
you also can't like bust in the doors for your first creative project being here's my passion project, my sad boy lit, like here is this big meaty thing. Like that's not gonna get eyes necessarily. Like Mechaton was the project to launch
Right.
with because it's bright, it's fun, it's light, but it
Mhm.
has a lot of heart, and it's got a really great hook and a great concept, and that's where the eyes come in. That's
Yeah.
where the fans start to build. And then Frankenstein goes a step
Even more
further.
so, yeah.
It's super over the top, it's super actiony, but it's way more mature. And then we bring in Depths, which is a little bit of it's the same kind of maturity, but it's literary. It's not over the top. It's super grounded. It's super
Mhm.
character driven. It really felt like we had the audience to make this a reality. So it is a huge goal. It's a huge undertaking. But if not now, I don't know when, because we feel like we have the audience who will actually show up and want to support a book like this.
And see, to me, this looks like a new audience. Which I imagine you pick up a lot of new people.
Oh yeah, every
How's
campaign.
yeah. But now is this necessarily? Will people follow over from the previous book? Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. We will.
We already have audiences. We already have people jumping ship from Frankenstein
All right,
and
cool.
Mechaton into
did
this.
you just as a marketing tip? Did you advertise anything in the previous book about when Depths was coming out?
Kind of.
Kind of.
We,
More or
we
less.
made a postcard that when we sent out Frankenstein #2, because we just the way it timed out, it was just like a couple weeks or maybe a month before we launched this campaign, we were shipping out the physical copies of Frankenstein #2. And so in every one of those, we put a little postcard with the cover art on it, and on the back it said, this is our new book.
Gotcha.
Scan the QR code, and you can get a sneak peek at it.
Ah, neat. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I guess I would ask this question too. To me, this is exactly the type of book, I'm talking about Depths now, that the world needs more of. I think it was Dalton said it's got a little bit more of a literary take, right? It's gonna feel more like an experience, right?
Mhm.
So viewers, if you're just tuning in, that's Depths we're taking a look at, and we're talking to Dalton Shannon and Wells Thompson, creators. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
What about, is there anything different that you're doing this time with your marketing? You mentioned that you got a larger goal. That could be a little intimidating, I'm sure. Are you doing anything different, sort of untested, to reach that number?
Yeah, it's certainly a large goal without having tits on a cover. That's for sure.
Yeah, you got that right.
We really should have found a way to work that in. But
No, Frankenstein was a breeze. We had boobs on that cover. It was great, but Depths not so much.
yeah,
Yeah.
if only. No, so a couple things we're doing differently. We're offering bigger rewards. So we have a draw me in tier if you want to get drawn into the book. And
It's our first time doing that.
First time doing that. The artist was down for it, and we already have a couple people taking us up on it. So we think that that will excite people or get people really excited about the prospect. Outside of that, we're doing the stuff that we know works. We're dropping some of the stuff that we have had iffy results about, and like I said, I'm getting on more social media, trying to spread the word as well as we can. TikTok is where the eyeballs are, so that's where I went, and I'm getting a good amount of engagement with it.
Yeah, I did okay too. I don't know if it's too early to say I would recommend it or not. But I had the thing about TikTok, the algorithm's different, right? And we'll chat a little bit about that. One of the things, I had one that was showing a poster that we made. It wasn't even a page from the book or anything spectacular. And it got like 4,300 views.
Damn.
Because it's all about what accidentally clicks into the, so, and it's not necessarily driven the same way as Facebook in the sense that it has very little to do actually with who your friends and connections are, and more like being spilled into a big pool, which for guys like us is maybe better.
It's way better.
Yeah,
it's way better because no one, I feel like with the exception of some really big fish, no one wants to go after the writer of a comic book. A lot of people aren't like seeking that out. They don't think of that as like the face of the project. So if they like a project, maybe they'll go see the artist, which is great. Good for them. I'm glad that my artist friends have tons of followers, but you're less likely to sort of have people seeking out that perspective.
How about, and can I ask you, and if some of these you don't want to talk about, you don't have to spill the beans on everything, but so what is your strategy then for TikTok? What like, is it a little video? Is it you're showing covers? How are you doing it?
So what I'm doing is kind of alternating between videos, sort of explaining the premise of the book, me reviewing other comics and kind of showing, putting in my 2 cents and my expertise. And then some life stuff. Like I've been doing a lot of comics featuring this one because she just hangs around. And that was a bit of advice that I got really early in my writing career is how do you, how writers have a tough time on social media because it's a very visual form. So get a cat. And that will always bring the audience in. So yeah, Quaylag has been helping me out. She's been doing a good job.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I've used it a little bit. Like I say, and mine are like short. They tend to be short spiels like I'm giving right now. And behind me is a page of the art, or maybe I'll be saying something about it or that kind of thing. But I get more engagement if I'm in there saying something. And
for sure.
Right. And you would think that the beautiful artwork is what would bring the bell. But
it's interesting. When my TikTok experience, the most engagement I ever got was somebody calling me a moron and questioning if I even read comic books because I suggested that Reed Richards was the main character of the Marvel Universe, and anything I did relating to Frankenstein the Unconquered got zilch. Like that was my TikTok experience.
Yeah, it's I guess the experiences can vary, and I'm not even one of the ones who. I don't particularly love social media myself. I recognize it as a little bit more of a social evil. And look, I'm even one of the first ones to admit that social media brings out much of the worst in people and has everybody focusing on sort of not positive behaviors.
Algorithm's not built for positivity.
Right. But that said, man, I sure do love talking to the comic creators on the air. And we had a couple musicians and, it's mostly comic. And a writer last night was a novelist. But it's like to hear their different things. And, you'd be surprised, guys, how many people come back and watch these because they want to hear, hey, man, what's Dalton and Wells doing over there? Their book's tearing it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
So I think in this case, it has less to do with and I say this to the audience, fairly, that, I want it to feel less like an advertisement and more a little bit to where we're getting to know you guys, because I find both of you all really interesting.
Thank you.
As I've said before, you got a really gutsy take on how you approach things. So I know you have a publicist, right?
Jeff?
Yeah, we have someone we work with that helps us to sort of navigate a lot of social media and podcasts and
he's a good guy too.
And keep a schedule for that matter.
Yeah. Yes. He's a creator too, so he speaks the language and everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
But now, how about, do you use any kind of, let's put it this way. This one I'll put on Wells, okay? So you start out at the beginning and you got this idea, and at this point it's a script. Let's say it's was it usually 24 page, something like that?
28 for this one.
Yeah, for this one it's 28 pages.
Okay.
Though normally we do 20-page scripts for a lot of our stuff.
Okay, so you got the script and you're getting ready to send it to art. What's the next step? Does anybody get involved? Is Wells calling the artist? How does it go from step A into production?
Generally it's me finding an artist that I think fits the tone for most projects. There's one or two that I've done where I hook in the artist early and I kind of build it around them. But in most cases, we make a script, we flush it out as much as we can, get it to where we're really proud of it. And then go to an artist and say, hey, here's our idea. We think you would be good. Your style would be good for the story. Are you available? What's your rate? And we just sort of go from there. And by the time we have, that first issue finished, they're more or less a collaborator on the book, the same as we are. You can only draw the characters so much before you really start to form an opinion on them. And
Right.
and we usually get something along the lines of like, hey, we could do this panel differently, or I feel like we could make this better. And we've never had an experience with an artist where their input has made the story worse. So it's always a delightful experience to get to work with artists like that.
Yeah, talking to other comic creators, we all have one thing in common, and we sometimes overlook it. We're all writers, artists, letterers. Everybody's got a different craft, but we're page makers at the end of the day. And there's nothing like
storytellers.
That thrill. Yeah, when you see the page, you're like, oh my gosh, right? That to me, that's actually what does it. So in the case of Depths, which we're talking about right now on Kickstarter, with Dalton Shannon and Wells Thompson. Dalton, tell us a little bit about. So it was a 20. Did you say it was 28 pages?
28.
It's a 28-page script. So when you first started,
let's be clear, for one issue, there's
4 in here.
There's 4 chapters in this first book, and so it's 112 pages total.
Gotcha. So that's what I was going with it. So we know that it's one arc in the book complete.
Right.
More or less, yeah.
The first half of the story is told here. Yes.
The first half of the story. Thank you. And now, so it's 4 issues in the first one and 4 issues in the
and then 3 issues in the second one, but the last chapter is a double size.
Yeah,
essentially.
Nice.
We like to have our finale issues be double sized.
Yeah.
And
I'm good. What I'm doing in my head, I'm doing a little bit of the math. I'm like, okay, no wonder they have this big goal. You probably have a relatively high production cost on this book.
Decently,
it's up there. And so, can I ask you this question? How do you? So you didn't even run the Kickstarter yet. So do you pay everybody in advance?
For the sample
For
pages,
the pages,
absolutely, yeah. Anything that they make, we're paying them for out of pocket, no matter what. But yeah, we what you see on the pages is what's done. We don't, or we're waiting to confirm that we have the funds to be able to pay Jay to make the book, and that he will be compensated for it fairly. Before we move fully into production, which is another reason why it took us so long to get to this book, is because with Mechaton, we're asking people to sit tight while we make 20 pages, and I think that's a pretty reasonable ask. But to come out of the gate and say, hey, we have a 112-page book, give us the money, and in a year it'll be done, is a big ask for a lot of people. And rightfully so. So we wanted to be able to prove that, to have a track
resume.
Prove that we fulfilled 4 out of our 5 or 5 out of our 6 campaigns, and we're working on fulfillment for the 6th right now as we're running the 7th. So you can trust us. There is a book coming. Like, we know what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and a side benefit of that, you mentioned you pay everybody up front. The side benefit of that is you get a better reputation in the industry.
Absolutely.
Among the, and I know that people have a lot of respect for you guys and the quality of the books that are coming out. Now, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the strange kind of side effects of doing things the way that we've done, which is to say paying everyone fairly and on time, and making sure that we're not overworking anybody, and et cetera, is that very often when I reach out to artists now, they're like, oh, I've been really wanting to work with you guys. And I'm like, that's weird. I didn't know you knew who I was.
Yeah, that's weird.
Isn't that a great feeling?
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah. Because, I'll just say quick to the viewers, because sometimes we get other comic creators watching the show, and it's a small community, and there's a darn good chance, you know what I mean? Please treat each other kindly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's all going to come back to you. So I did want to ask a question about Mechaton. Am I saying it correct?
Yeah.
In the book Mechaton. So that one, is that book going into fulfillment now? Tell us where that book is.
So 4 is nearly done. It's we're doing some corrections on the lettering, and then we're putting it into, I guess, post-production is what you would guess. Is what you would say. But like, we're formatting it and putting it into an acceptable digital form, and then we'll be sending that out digitally. Number 5, we are coloring right now. Megan Casey is coloring that one, so pretty soon we should be ready to go into letters on that. And then when we get them both done and ready, we'll send them both off to print at the same time. that way. That was sort of the purpose behind doing 2 at a time is saving on the printing, saving on the shipping, so we're not shipping out 1 per issue. You get you're spending less on that. So
and then fingers crossed later this year we get the trade.
Oh, nice.
If everything works out.
Yes.
And do I remember that book's going to be published by
Scout?
It
is number 1 is
out.
Yeah, in stores right now. You can go pick it up.
Nice. And congrats on that, guys.
Thank
Scout,
you.
one of the better publishers.
Yes,
we think so too.
yeah, nicely done. So, viewers, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about Depths. That's over on Kickstarter right now. We're talking to Dalton Shannon and Wells Thompson about their new book, which looks amazing. I love underwater scenes and movies, and just when you mentioned that it has the elements of depression and the mental health is sort of like an allegory. How would you say that's approached in the
I'd say like the act of being underwater is a metaphor for it, but they're also just directly experiencing it, so it's
the meat of the story.
Gotcha.
Where under the ocean is the set dressing, like the mental health issues are like that's the story is Emil's struggle with his grief and his depression and anxiety, and James also with his manic episodes, his grief, his depression. Like it's 2 sides of the same coin, just trying to explore mental health in a way that is true and isn't necessarily a solution, but at least it's a it's a way forward, more or less.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm grateful for that. And I tell you why. It's cool that I think of the right way to say this. It's cool that media can explore aspects of mental health without sort of like maybe a negative stigma being attached to it. And it's even kind of cool in a way. And that's something that I endorse it 100%. So
yeah, I mean, everyone I'm convinced every single person on Earth goes through depressive episodes, even if they don't realize that's what it is. Like everyone has experienced what Emil is going through. Not the ocean, but like at the
very least, we've all lost someone who's influenced us at some point in our lives and can relate to that much of the story. There's
no stigma there. Like everyone has experienced that. There's nothing to be ashamed about it. It's the talking about it that can bring a new light to it and help you kind of get through it. Like I said, not overcome it necessarily, because you don't necessarily have to overcome it, but it's living with it. It's getting through it. It's finding a way forward. And I think Depths is a great way to illustrate moving forward rather than being stuck under the water.
Well said. Yeah, man, that's actually a pretty good elevator pitch right there.
Yeah.
But it's interesting on a number of levels. And viewers, if you're just tuning in, that's Depths. It's over on Kickstarter right now. There's your call to action. Go get this book. It looks amazing. I certainly wish you every success with it. And Dalton, what's the long game on Depths? Is this going to go to Scout? Do you have
who knows? No, we have like we said, this is only the first half of the story.
Yeah.
So we have 3 more issues to tell. So once this book is in the can and we can get it out to all of our backers, that's when the next Kickstarter launches, and we get unless there is a publisher eyeing all of this, in which case we might be able to get things moving a little faster. But
definitely once we have book 2 made and we have a full story, I would love to try and get it published in one way, shape, or form.
Yes.
Whether that's through a comic publisher, whether it's through a book publisher, whether it's just putting it together and trying to
into one collection.
And trying to get it out that way. But one way or another.
You're doing a great job building your fan base and being known for quality books as people that do fulfill. And I will tell you, we were talking to Pat Shand last night, and he says, don't forget publishing it yourself. I mean, he does much better with his
for sure.
Now, of course,
undoubtedly.
Now they've got something like I think he said it's like a 7 or 8 man team now. And so we got Dalton and Wells, and who's on the whole team for Depths? Could you run through that for us?
Jay Sheik on art, Rajesh Kumar on colors, and why can't I remember Nathan's last name?
Nathan Kemp.
Nathan Kemp on letters. Yes.
Plus
Brenda Snelby
on design, logo
Yes.
design and book packaging and stuff.
Just a full team.
Oh yeah, you know, that's interesting that you say that, because I use a full-time design person too.
Mhm.
I think that's one of the
They get left
Unsung
out of the
heroes.
conversation quite a bit.
Right.
Unsung hero.
She makes my life so much easier and so much better. I can focus on much more of the stuff I should be focusing on, instead of the little details of, you know, trying to put the book together and get it right for the printer. She absolutely saves my life.
Well, even
in
the
that way.
cohesive look of branding and stuff, where if you especially if you start to get like a series, which is multiple issues, you want I feel, is one man's opinion, that modern creators, that's one of the things they don't pay enough attention to, is the branding on the book. Like if you have number 1 and number 4, they should not only look like a set, it should complement each other somehow, like a collected DVD set or something. Like,
for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's a thing that media is getting away from, but I'd love to see more of that.
I think that with the advent of streaming and digital as like the main way of doing it, it's probably I wouldn't say we're moving away from it. I think there's still an eye for it, but there's less of an emphasis on it for sure.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, something I would love to bring back. We have an idea for actually for Depths and the other stories that go along in it. Depths is itself a complete story, and you can leave
7
it alone,
issues and it's done.
But it is also a part of a series of other stories that we want to tell that are unrelated but related to Depths.
Gotcha.
So and we've had a lot of conversations about like, well, when you put those books together, they should do something. And yeah, that's a very in the future. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a very in the future problem.
That's a long-term goal.
Like just a short example, we just talked about this the other day, because I feel this gets ignored a lot. You talk about your back covers should even thematically work.
Yes,
so here's an example of what I'm talking about. Like I always use the Watchmen for an example. I'm a huge Watchmen fan. The back of it was like a clock, and the back of number 1 there was blood just starting to run down. But anyways, you go further through the series, the last clocks is covered with blood.
Yeah.
And you know, it could be something that's a very simple design choice, but it's the kind of thing that comic collectors dig.
It's true.
It's part of the experience. And I don't know. I wonder if something like that would translate digitally. I guess it probably would. You can still see it.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots you can do with design elements that kind of not only match like issue to issue, but can kind of complement and tell a story issue to issue. Like especially honestly, with the digital landscape offers even more opportunities for that. Like like I remember years ago, there was the Mark Waid, Chris Samney Daredevil run. And there was a string of issues in there where Daredevil was just getting the crap beat out of him, like Daredevil does. You know, that's just what he does. But the logo for each issue, the first issue of the arc was the full color Daredevil logo, and then by the time you got to the end of the arc, it was drained of all color. Like each issue was just lower and lower in saturation until it was just drained. Yeah. With digital, you can actually show that as a moving GIF or like there's the infinite canvas. Like each issue in the digital age, we might be moving away from a more cohesive design ethos, but it's an era that should have more impetus to have more of a tighter design throughout. Like there's so much opportunity to tie it all together that you can't afford not to, honestly.
Right. And it's really such an important part of the craft too.
It is. Yeah.
You know, we talked about some other small elements of your book, or like it's got a really cool color scheme. It has some allegory and some metaphor in it. Well, that's one of the things too, is a tight design that helps people be drawn into why is it different from other books, you know?
Yeah, Depths wouldn't look as good without Brenda, that's for sure. Like that logo sells the book.
Sure.
Yeah, it's great looking. I'll give you a quick example. We have a full-time designer. I'll give you a quick example of one of ours that was rejected, which I think you might like. So we currently have the Call of the Cryptid book live over on Kickstarter, and it's 4 issues. And one of the ideas was the logo would progress, into like a series of hieroglyphics. It's alien writing.
Okay,
Is what
yeah.
it is. Yeah. Hey, what a great concept, right? By the time you get to the 4th issue, you can't even read it. It's like symbols and it's very obtuse.
Sure.
And hey, we're all such geniuses to think of this, right?
Right.
Someone goes, no, man, what are you doing? Because first of all, that's only useful if the person buys the set. It
Right.
doesn't, you can't even tell what the title says. Hey, that's
Yeah.
what makes it cool. Like, no.
No.
Not when you're trying to sell issue 4.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Which I knew you guys would love the idea.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's, there is an element of design versus commercialism, which you got to
Right.
take into account.
No, I mean that's what.
No, you put that
old
all-
truism.
You
That
put
old
that
truism.
into a trade.
Yeah.
Like each of the issue starts with that, and it gets more and more messed up.
Yeah.
Each chapter, yeah.
I'd love to. We could do a whole episode on this sometime. I like the elements of the book that they call the interstitials. Like we always do. Like there's always like a blank facing page, and it sort of looks sort of marbled. And like in the very lower left corner, it'll be one small visual element of one of the pieces of the story. Like one of the guy's an exterminator, and it's just a fly on the page.
Sure.
Like that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
dude.
no.
Kaylin Smith, if you've ever read any of her books,
I know her because of you. You recommended this to me. Keep going.
Oh, okay. So the book Plume does this really, really well, where like the last page of every book is like one of the panels in very like a distorted fashion, where the characters are kind of blown up, the background is gone. It's really cool. It works really well. I wish I had it on me so I could show you visually what that looks like. But
yeah.
I love when that's done really well. It definitely adds something to the book.
Yeah.
Well, let's steer it back to depths real quick for the viewer. So, on one of the shows, we talked about some world building elements, right? And so you have a setup here that's it could be complex. You have a great setup pitch line. How does the reader jump in? Like, is there a page of exposition? Or are they just thrust right in? How does it start?
It starts the way you with what
The
you
sample
read.
pages.
Yeah, those sample pages. Those are the first 5 pages of the book. I think it was important for us to give people a sort of a moody introduction to
show you what the
thematically what it is. Yeah, thematically, this is what the book is going to be, and then we take a step back and go, okay, here's how we got here. It's not always my preferred method of storytelling, but I think in this case it was really necessary, because if you just start off with being on the ship and then get thrust into it, it feels like a little bit of whiplash.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, it kind of goes back to what we were saying about the design. Like, it is that old truism that comics are the bastard child of commerce and art, where you kind of have to have this kind of splashy intro, and then you can kind of take a step back and show where it started, the art there. So like you have that splashy commercial bit, and then you can kind of take a step back and start getting into the meat of the art. And not to say that this intro to depths is just like commercial garbage, but like we wanted to show in this first bit that this is the book. Emil is underwater. This is what you're going to be seeing for at least 50% of the time, are these underwater landscapes, Emil trying to survive. And then you cut back and you show, and the book is it's built on flashbacks as well. There's tons of flashbacks in this book.
Nice.
So you get to so the first issue gets to show, here's the present underwater, and then we get to flashback to show how we got here, but not only how we got here, but this is also James's world. So you get to see the underwater of Emil and the above ground for James. And it does kind of, I think these sample pages are a great example of what to expect for like the entire book.
Yeah.
It also does a fun kind of bait and switch of you read down, and like we're sticking with this guy Emil in the suit, and we never see his face. So the first person we really get like the focus on in the above water section is this dapper looking like Tony Stark looking guy, and we think that's Emil, only to in the next page find out that that's not Emil, that's James, and Emil looks like absolute garbage.
Yeah, he's a sad sack.
You got rocking the 9-panel
he does
page.
not. Yeah,
yes.
and that was the other thing, is like, let's just get the 9-panel grid out of the way early. Let's let him know that we mean business here.
Yeah, we have also read Watchmen. Yes.
We had a whole thing the other night. We're big 9-panelers over here.
Mm-hmm.
I like the 12
It's
panel.
not. it's not normally our thing. No, like with Frankenstein the Unconquered, the page design, the panel layouts are out of control, like completely flashy and over the top. But it's a really flashy book. It's meant to be brutal and over the top and have a lot of visually pops, elements that pop out. Which is not to say that there aren't going to be big moments in this book or anything, but it is a lot more grounded, and we wanted to communicate that with a lot more traditional, simpler panel design.
I'm a big usually about 5 panels a page kind of guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a little bit of, first of all, I'll take myself, because again, I don't want, sometimes I say things, I don't want to be like I'm ripping on someone, because I use the 9-panel page too. But there is a little bit of sometimes what's best for the story, and sometimes, hey, look at me, I'm making a comic.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. And you can kind of, you can see that in the first issue of Frankenstein, where we're like, oh, we're making a comic. Like, here's a 12-panel page followed by a 2-page montage. Like, that was a lot. And then and no, Depths is very much. I'm pretty sure 9 is the max we go on any sort of panel in Depths. Like, we don't.
Yeah.
I don't think we stretched 12 at any point. But that's
the only time we have sort of a house rule, and we've only done it maybe twice, but anytime you do a 12-panel, it's got to be followed by the splash. Because
the
audience, it's
that's just a courtesy. it's not only a courtesy, it's what I find myself doing in prose writing all the time, which is you have this you have one sentence that trails on and is very flowery and descriptive. And then your next sentence is like 5
but
words.
I was there.
It's 5 words, just quick punctuation, and that sort of breaks things up for the reader and helps sell the point a little bit better. So that's just kind of
pacing,
syntax. I would say the syntax of comics.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, because that is one of the elements that makes writing interesting and compelling is the ability. It's like a good song, right? You got the great big long drum fill. Well, there's the cymbal at the end.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I have 2 questions left before we wrap it up. So let's do this one. I think that Depths could potentially appeal to a broad audience, like a lot of different types of people. Yeah. Can you give us a little breakdown on what do you think is the target audience for it in a way like this? Like, hey, if you like this, you'll like Depths.
Oh, if you like The Martian, you'll like Depths.
Yeah.
If you like Craig Thompson's,
love The Martian.
Yeah. If you like Craig Thompson's Blankets, I think you'll like Depths. I don't know, Dalton, anything come to mind for you?
I mean, if you like character pieces, that Depths is first and foremost a character piece. Whereas Mechaton and Frankenstein are vehicles to showcase really cool stuff. Like Depths is to showcase characters and their struggles. So like if you're more of a character drama guy over a like anime punch 'em up, then this is definitely right up your alley. And also like, everyone likes the ocean, even if you're terrified of it. Like, it's cool. Like, it's just it's a cool visual. You're gonna want to see some of the stuff we do. Fish tornadoes, guys.
Yep. Actually, I have a good one. If you read Seconds by Brian Lee O'Malley and thought that's what Scott Pilgrim was missing, this is the book for you.
I don't know that one. Seconds.
Seconds is great. Definitely read Seconds.
The first 2, man, you mentioned were ringers for me. They're 2 of my favorites. So I will tell you, I'm the kind of customer that this product is aimed at.
Hey, all right. We got a sale.
There we go. So I just have one more question for you in closing, which is, so man, you guys have had some great projects, known for having high quality projects. In the middle of a terrific one right now, this is Depths over on Kickstarter right now. What is next for Dalton and Wells?
Dalton's taking a vacation, and he deserves it.
No, there's no vacation for a creative.
No, Dalton is working on a comic strip right now, a true blue newspaper comic strip for some characters that he's had in his back pocket for a while. They're some of my favorites, Bryce and Wesley. Nice. And I'm working on a Princess Bride-esque fantasy adventure comic with one Rachel Distler of Nightcrawler's fame.
Nice.
Yeah.
But later this year, there's also going to be more Frankenstein.
Yeah, more Frankenstein, more Mechaton are always on the horizon.
Yeah.
What is your crowdfunding threshold? You do 4 a year?
We did 4 last year. We wanted to do 6 this year. I moved to Chicago at the very end of last year, beginning of this year. So that put through a huge monkey wrench in our plans. So we're hoping to get to 5 by the end of this year.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But no, like Mechaton, Frankenstein, Depths, those are like our big 3 projects right now.
Okay, perfect. Well, before we go, let's go around the room one more time and just say who you are and where we can find you. And then when we get right to the end, we will pitch Depths one more time.
All right.
Dalton, you first.
I'm Dalton Shannon. You can find me on any social media that matters at Dalton K. Shannon if I decide to actually post. I also have a website, daltonkshannon.com. And you can find us at our newsletter, Comics, Cats, and Cocktails. There should be a link on mine and Wells's Twitter to sign up for that if you like comics, cats, or cocktails. And also on Kickstarter, where Depths is running right now.
Yep.
Nice. And Wells, how about you? Tell us where we can find you.
Okay, my name is Timothy Fling. I'm the writer of Comic Book Cryptid, host of the podcast. No, my name is Wells Thompson. I'm a comic book writer. You can find me on Twitter at Wells Thomp. It's just my name minus the last 3 letters. On TikTok, Wells Thompson. I have a website, wellsthompson.com, that you can check out all my stuff at. A Ko-Fi if you want to buy me a cup of coffee or tea.
Oh, sweet.
As well as a bunch of our comics are on there. The stuff that we are able to sell is up on there as well. And then I usually have a Kickstarter running, so you can follow me on there, and you will be notified whenever I put out a new project. And go back Depths. It's a great book.
Yeah, I tell you guys, in closing, I just want to say first, congrats on your many successes. As you know, I've been watching your projects. We met on the interview before. I'm really impressed by the output. And I think you have some great teams. I'm really looking forward to the new product.
I do have to gloat for a second. This is our first ever project we love. I am super jazzed about that. I have been waiting for that badge for so long. I just thought it would never come at this point. And yeah, I'm really super excited about the fact that it exists.
Yeah, congrats so much, guys. And it really just a pleasure to see you. Viewers, we are talking about Depths. That's over on Kickstarter right now. Highly recommended from Dalton Shannon and Wells Thompson. Thanks for tuning in. This has been an episode of the Creative Cranium. Look forward to seeing you guys next week. Good night, everybody.